Hey guys, welcome back to Words of War. My name is Jorge Guerra.
And I'm Sergio Guerra.
And today we're going to be reviewing Sin City 2, A Dame to Kill For. So this is our spoiler review, so be ready for spoilers, completely chock full of spoilers. If you're looking for the non-spoiler review, click on the annotation, or there should be a link on the more below. But yeah, so the spoilers, here we go.
Right, so there's not much of a synopsis for this film because it's kind of, if you've seen the first one, it's kind of like that's a couple of different stories, like a compilation of stories. They all kind of intertwine, together. And so, there's various stories which we're going to go into anyways. Yeah. So the only thing we'd say is it's very much what part one was. So if you like part one, you might be interested in this one. What do you think?
Well, I think maybe we should break this down into stories. So, first story I think that came up was Dwight's story, which is a big part of this one, right? So
Dwight's story did not come up first.
Well, but the first one was cut in half. So it was the first big story with an ending. Yeah, we'll go with that one. So there's different stories in this one. So we'll go into Dwight's story first. So, honestly, this is the return of the Dwight character, which is from part one, which is played by Clive Owen in part one.
Well, first of all, that's already a giant spoiler. You should leave that to the end.
Why? It's a spoiler review.
I know, but you should at least give it to him in the order that it happens.
It is in the order that it happens.
No, it's not. I'm just saying, I would have talked about Dwight's story, blah, 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 and at the end, the fact that this Dwight ends up being the same Dwight from part one through some plastic surgery.
People already know that from the trailers and when they name the characters.
Dwight? There's a lot of people named Dwight.
Well, I already knew that it was him beforehand.
I didn't. Nobody told me. Did. But you went to the what you call it, panel.
Yeah, went to the panel.
Right, so that's probably where you heard it.
No, they didn't even say it at the panel. I just knew from the internet said it.
Well, these people may have not been on the internet or whatever you call it.
Whatever those kids are calling it now. But it's called... So anyways, Clive Owen played him in the first one. And this is everything that happened beforehand. If you remember the first one, they talk about the fact that he looked different and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of like this little origin story, which is kind of cool. It's cool seeing Josh Brolin because he's a good actor. He totally did a tough guy act in this one. And it was good. I mean... it was definitely, I think, even on par with the tough guyness of Marv. They were kind of like, I felt like that's kind of what they were going for, like making him a badass. But at the same time, that's where I feel it kind of didn't pay off. They have this kind of whole scene where they show him trying to not lose control, but then you never really see what happens if he does lose control. So that was a little disappointing for me in that way. What about yourself?
Well, I guess first I'd like to frame it because this story we're talking about with the Dwight character starts off with him. He's doing like some detective or private detective type work. He's taking pictures of different people, and we kind of catch him in the act of catching somebody else in the act, and that's kind of what his life's about. He's trying to lead a life outside of Sin City, even though he was kind of born there and all that. And so you kind of get introduced to the character as this, person who's kind of trying to make things right, is struggling to keep the beast hidden or whatever, and he ends up, in a Sin City bar, and kind of with an ex-fling, calling out to him, and he doesn't know why or whatever, but he's magnetically attracted to her, so he decides, okay, I'm going to meet with her, even though you kind of can tell there's a lot of backstory there, that things went bad. And he pretty much says that to her face when she does show up. That's Ava Green's character. And so the whole story is revolving around how, even though she was bad news for him the first time, and it looks like she's bad news the second time, he's still unfortunately drawn to the trouble.
A siren. I think they might even describe her like that.
Yeah. And so, so I think in that context, he kind of falls for her, I loved you and, and I'm in trouble, kind of damsel in distress type situation, and goes out and tries to save her and gets himself into deeper trouble because she kind of coerces him into, killing her husband for having done all these horrible things to her, which he never really did.
Yeah. So you kind of find out that she kind of just likes to manipulate people. Like they even say she does it for sport, just to even, you know what I mean? So like that whole story, you just see Eva Green evolve from like this damsel in distress as you first meet her, like to this like bitch, like you know, just like that, like really pretty much just like has fun with men because she can toy with them, and I thought it was really funny because it kind of shows that like no matter how strong of a guy you are, or no matter how much of a badass you are, just the right girl can fuck you the hell up, like you know what I mean? It's like that was pretty much what that story was. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much after he does her bidding, she throws him away, and so that's where you kind of realize, okay, well, you know, this guy went in for surgery, like so he can go get back at her and all that, and he ends up looking, you know, through makeup, kind of like
a little bit like Clive Owen,
Clive Owen, which is the other, you know, but that's who he's supposed to be. So he's still found out and all that, and he does this whole thing. And you know, even though there's a spoiler, I don't think we should tell everybody exactly what happens.
Yeah.
But you know, that gets you that pretty much, you know, is what the story's about. And overall, I think it was really well acted. Josh Brolin did great. Eva Green did great. They were the main ones. Marv, Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
He was in that story as well, and he did very, very well as Marv, you know, the kick-ass guy he is, or whatever. So, you know, that to me, the only problem for me was that it's kind of what the movie's named after, A Dame to Kill For. And yet, it seemed like a very small part overall of the whole movie. Because beforehand, when we started, you start off with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his story, and he's kind of like a playboy coming into town or whatever. You end up finding out he's trying to get revenge on the senator, which ends up being his father. I am your father.
Yeah, it definitely was that kind of moment.
So so you got that, and then what are the two stories after
within the Joseph Gordon-Levitt story, they threw in kind of the whole Jessica Alba and what's going on after Hardigan. You know, if you've seen part one, you know, Jessica Alba's character, you know, was this little girl got kidnapped and Hardigan saved her, and he died pretty much to save her again, and this is 4 years after. Mm-hmm. So it's 4 years after things happen, and she's kind of like, you know, mad that he left her, you know, and stuff like that. So those are the other two stories that are kind of going on through there. You know, so the first one, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one, let's go into that one. That one, you know, in all honesty, that one, that one felt kind of cool. It was very much like kind of just, you know, one guy versus the world kind of sort of for me, you know. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt did really good. He played like this cocky kind of guy, and you know, and he goes into this poker game to go up against the mayor, and even everybody's like, "Don't do it."
Well, the senator,
or the senator. I'm sorry.
I think I said mayor earlier too. So
now it's called that. So like, don't beat him in this game. And he's like, I never lose. And so you know, and then shit happens, and he gets beat up, and like all that stuff, you know. But all in all, I think the story arc for it, like, you know, like it's this whole guy who's just, there's this whole thing about power, you know, especially because you saw the senator, I think the senator beat Evo in part one, and you kind of get the sense that he's like super powerful, you know, like his brother in part one was super powerful, his kid, like he got him off all this different stuff, you know, and like this whole power struggle thing with him, you know, and you know, people are warning him just that you can't even beat this guy at poker because like your life is screwed if you beat this guy at poker, you know. And it's like and you know, and this whole roundabout thing kind of goes away. Oh, this is a huge spoiler, but it's not anything I say is not going to make sense if I don't say it. So if you want to hear this part, skip forward like 45 seconds. But so anyway, so he beats him the first time in poker. He comes, the senator comes back and totally kicks his ass, breaks his hand, does all this stuff to him, and he still comes back the second time just to beat him again, just to show that no matter what, like, he beat him. Like, it didn't matter that he, like, literally in his life, like, kicked his ass and, like, all this different stuff that he did to him, but that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character came back and still beat him no matter what. And I thought that was super cool because it shows that, like, you know, even this one little kid, like, or this one kid.
Well, get to the spoiler because the 45-second people are going to be back.
So that was a spoiler that he ends up beating him yet again.
Oh, that's a spoiler.
Yeah, so that's a spoiler.
Oh, I thought you meant the fact that they shoot him in the head.
Oh, well, that, but I meant that.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
So it just a big power struggle was super. I thought that was a super cool little story, and I thought he did a good job. And then the guy who plays the senator, I don't know his name, But
he's
Rourke,
so good. Huh?
He's so good.
I forget his name.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but he is so good at playing like an evil badass. Like he's just so good. But yeah, I mean that was my take on that story. But
yeah.
What did you think about that one?
Well, pretty much the same thing. Actually, I didn't have any problem with it. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt, fit that part really well. The only thing I think didn't work for me was that, his mannerisms, his voice, the scenery, everything was very, old style, very, very, well done. And it's not even his fault. I'm just saying it's, when things go well, it's really easy to notice the small things that go wrong. So, the only thing that got to me is that he just didn't have that gritty look. He still, maybe it was the lighting or whatever, but he still looked very young, very just kind of, normal looking, and everything else was really kind of like, stylized. And
yeah,
so
even Jessica Alba has kind of that dark look to her.
Right, yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, that's the only thing off of that. But the story's pretty cool. He goes through hell because of the senator, even when, you kind of find out, okay, he's a son. There's a lot of mystery in that story, and I don't know if it's done on purpose or not, because, maybe it's just part of the story that wasn't told, or maybe it just wasn't written. But, you never really know, well, why did he come into, Sin City? Why was he looking for the senator in particular? Was he trying to get something out of him? Or was he, because this guy's obviously a player, like, the whole time. So was he trying to, steal some spotlight off the senator into himself? Did he just have a death wish? You never really know.
I kind of thought that it was just that he wanted to like show that he was better than him.
But why?
Because of the mom, like I think. Well, for me,
they never explained anything about the mom.
Yeah,
or
but like
him,
he was
or,
like she was an angel. Like so, he held his high.
That was at the very end.
High regard.
Right. But that was at the very end of the movie.
I'm
talking about why he got there. There's never any real mention of why he started up on this crusade.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's mysterious, so it keeps you drawn in. It's like, well, what's going to happen?
But that's not what you thought.
At the end of the story, you're still kind of left with that question. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, it is just a story then, There might have been something before it. There might not have been something before it. Who knows, But even then, the senator, like, evil, the senator's evil kind of goes past that story, and it's also part of the Jessica Alba and Hardigan story again. Yeah. Hardigan shows up. Bruce Willis comes out in this for a very short amount of time. So it doesn't really, you don't get a lot of Bruce Willis in this, but it's still pretty cool, know. And if you've seen the first one, you follow that story with him and Nancy. Now, kind of Nancy, I think you mentioned earlier, she kind of resents him, because she thinks he left her, since he shot himself at the end of part one, and she's trying to get revenge, from the senator, and trying to kill him, and she comes close to it, but she can never really, do it, because he goes to the club where she's at, and she actually goes up on stage with a gun and aims at him, and still can't bring herself to do it. So it makes her start drinking and starts just ruining her life.
Yeah, and what's cool is you see her kind of spiraling throughout this whole movie, like because you always see her, she's a constant in in the bar scene, she's always there. They hire one dancer, which, except for Lex Vega, who came out very briefly for the last bit, and then Lex Vega, but what's called. So, anyways, but yeah, you see her kind of spiraling, during Joseph Gordon-Levitt's story, you see her kind of staring at the senator from a little peephole that she has in her dressing room, just pointing the gun, because she's just completely spiraling from all this despair and pain, and she's still putting flowers in Hardigan's tombstone, because it's just he's the only guy she ever loved, and he left her, and poor little Jessica Alba. She just wants revenge. That's all. Let's have a moment. Okay, moment. Alright, so anyways, so that story I thought was really cool. Marv was in every single story in this one, which
almost every single story,
just about, and what's called, which of course was super cool. One thing I will say, I thought Marv's makeup kind of changed in every story.
Well, it looked to me like at the very beginning, it was slightly different, and then the end, when they ended with in the Nancy story, that was more of the makeup they used in the first one. So I don't know what happened, if there was a change or something, but there was definitely a change with that first one, and that might just be due to the fact that your face changes. He might have gained weight, lost weight, and so they need to resculpt the prosthetics. It's going to be different if the face is bigger. And I mean, sometimes depending if it's another studio, they might not actually be. The same sculptor might not be doing the same prosthetics. So there's all sorts of reasons why that could have happened. It's not super distracting, except if you really know Marv's face from the first one. Then you kind of get this. What's wrong with his chin? It was mostly like here that was changed. I think it went off too far out. But
he was still a badass in this. And in that story, like he like still shows his badassness and helps Nancy out. Like he always sees. There's like when Nancy goes dark. Like he makes a comment about like seeing his little sister, like he's like, oh, that's like watching my little sister like do the nasty or whatever, which I thought was really funny because you kind of get that sense, they put that in the first one where like he's like kind of a protector, and this one they really kind of like reiterate that he's not really there to watch her dance, he's kind of like looking out for her, which I thought was kind of cool. It makes him more, I guess, endearing or whatever. It's the big old teddy bear, but what's called but yeah, I mean, all in all, that story was good. Like I said, in that story, you get to see Jessica Alba like I said, go a little dark, but she goes like kick ass action person for a little bit, and it was super cool to see because I haven't seen her do that in a while, since like Dark Angel, which is back in the day. They didn't get a long run, but it was a good show. But yeah, so anyway, so that was kind of fun seeing her do all that stuff.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of the little things within the stories, like like the fact that Josh Brolin's character kind of becomes the Dwight that we all saw in the other one. There's not as much gore as there was in the first one, even though in the first one the gore gets kind of like white out treatments. There's a part of here where they take out this guy's eyeball. That was kind of cool. And then there's another eyeball. There's a lot of eyeball stuff in this movie. Actually, people get shot in the eyeball. They get their eyeball torn out. They get their eye, area kind of chewed off, so all you can see is the eye. Anyways, so pretty cool stuff with that. You get to see Rosario Dawson's character, and the like, old town girls and stuff like that, and kind of how they're running the joint. But overall, even though this kind of had a slower feel than the first one, you kind of, I think. You kind of left still wanting to see more. Like, okay, well, I want to know more about these characters, and that's a good thing, overall. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, if anything, as far as our overall look for this movie, what would you go?
Well, I think it was entertaining enough. I got more of a like guttural, energetic sense from the first movie than I did with this one. It did feel a little more kind of mellow compared to the other one. The stories were interesting. And but there just wasn't as much energy. So I definitely would watch it again, but I'm not in a hurry to do so. I would probably give it a 7 because I think if you watch the old one, you might like this one. You might actually find it too different. Maybe you won't enjoy it, but I think a good amount of people could probably watch this. Definitely not for kids. There's tons of nudity in it, and the action almost even seems less than the nudity. There's definitely more like violence and stuff, but yeah. So definitely it's only going to be geared towards a certain age group, and then even then if you don't like more serious gritty type things or whatever, this might be a little too low energy for you. Yeah. So 7 for me.
That's cool. For me, I'm going to go with 7.5 just because if you're a fan of the first one, you will more than likely like this one. But it is a different pacing. Because I definitely thought the first one, there was a little bit more like life to the city or to the characters. This one, I think they might have taken for granted that you've taken this trip before. And they didn't kind of put that same energy into it. So for me, that was a little bit. So also in some of the stories, I thought they did drag a little. And yeah, that's definitely a big change. The action aspect, because in the first one, like I said, there was definitely more, I think, going on than in some of these stories. But all in all, it's still, like you said, they're good stories. It's definitely good casting and good acting. Ray Liotta's in this for like I don't know, like 5 minutes maybe. But it's fucking Ray Liotta. He's just fucking awesome in it. the girl he's with, I don't remember her name, but that scene alone, that was really cool. It was like a little 5 snippet scene introducing the whole story with Dwight, and even that little part was super cool. But yeah, so I mean, it was a good time. So, you know, all in all, I would go at 7.5. But let us know what you thought. I mean, who was your favorite character? Mine was still Marv, as far as the story goes. But let us know if you've already seen this. You know, like what did you think as far as those same things, like the story, the scenes, and how did it compare to the first one? Is the first one better than this one? Is this one better than the other one? What did you think? But yeah, let us know in the comments down below. As always, please like, subscribe, and share if you can. It'd be amazing, and we do thank you. But again, my name is Jorge Guerra.
And I'm Sergio Guerra.
And you have a good one. Bye.